Hey there, everybody. I hope everyone is doing well today. Happy Wednesday. We have quite a bit to do today. I have a bit of a longer lesson, so I would pretty much like to get right into some things. And I have quite a bit to talk about today. Okay, so here is where we are at. So hopefully everyone has their mapping essay rough draft ready. Because we will begin peer review actually today, and peer review will begin today and end on next Monday by midnight. So the thing that I'm assigning for this weekend and what we're working on this weekend is the mapping essay, peer review, and the midway reflection for the course. And those things will be included within the final portfolio. So like I said, the only thing that I'm really assigning to be working on this weekend is peer review. So that will give you time to finish up your rough draft. It's okay if you don't have a complete rough draft at this point. I do understand. But hopefully you have something to post and share with students. But that's why I'm giving the whole weekend. So if you want, you have some extra time to post your rough draft and work on it this weekend. So that's why I am starting peer review on today. And then, like I said, peer review will end on next Monday by midnight. So hopefully that will give you all a little bit more time to do peer review. I know it can be a little tricky with asynchronous classes with peer review sometimes. So that's why I'm trying to give at least a bit of extra time or a little bit of wiggle room there. But pretty much for the weekend, what you should be doing is finishing final revisions, finish the rough draft of the mapping essay, and then the final draft will be due on Tuesday, April 13th. And then next Tuesday, we're pretty much going to move right along into our last paper, which is the researched positions paper or the final research paper. And that's pretty much what we'll be working on next week. And then finishing that up, and then the rest of the course we'll be working on digital portfolios or making a Google website for your digital portfolio. So that is pretty much that. So keeping that in mind is very important to making sure you're keeping up at this point. At this point in the course, we only have about 4 weeks left. So it's a bit of a wake-up call. I'm doing my wake-up call right now, so hopefully you are able to keep up with everything at this point. Now, if you find yourself struggling and you need a little bit of extra help, I do have some open appointments, I think on Friday, but if you can't do Friday, I would be willing to do next Monday evening as well. So just let me know what works for all of you. Now, keep in mind that the Learning Center also has online tutoring if you find yourself needing some extra help at this point within the semester. So if you need help from the Learning Center, you can always email them. And they're usually more than accommodating and willing to help all of you out, especially with online courses this semester. So just bearing that in mind. But we are pretty much at the final finish mark here, my friends. So keeping that in mind, final grades are pretty much due, I think, by 5/17, which is May 17th. Also, please note there will be no extensions on the final portfolio, so please do keep that in mind. That has been within my syllabus the whole entire semester. I really can't give extensions on the final portfolio. I really need them at a certain point in time, so I can have time to go through them all and grade them accordingly. And as you all know, if you look at my syllabus, hopefully everyone has looked at the syllabus by now. I'm a little worried if you haven't, but here is the grading scale. Like I said, the portfolio is worth 60% of your final grade. So yeah, just keeping that in mind. But anyway, I am done with my little wake-up call. We are more than halfway through the semester, and it has been absolutely fun teaching online. It's been quite different experience, but I really enjoyed it. So anyway, what we are focusing on today for Thursday, April 8th is looking at the mapping essay, a review for drafting, peer review, and also the midway reflection workshop. So without further ado, I think I will go ahead and get right into that. Okay, so this is our lesson for the mapping, drafting, review, and peer review. So keeping in mind that textbook that I was quoting from our last lesson, which is They Say, I Say by Graf and Bergenstein, excellent textbook, definitely recommend giving it a read, especially if you struggle with like organization or academic writing in general. It's very much a great summer read. It's a very light, easy read, I feel like. So I don't know, just putting that out there. But anyway, so this quote reads, "For us, the underlying structure of effective academic writing and of responsible public discourse resides just not in stating our own ideas, but in listening closely to others around us, summarizing their views in a way they will recognize and responding with our own ideas in kind." So part 1 of this lesson will be the mapping review or the drafting. So by now, hopefully everyone has had a chance to draft an introduction and thesis that states the purpose of their writing. Body paragraphs supporting the purpose of writing or supporting your thesis statement, right? That's very much what we're working on, is enforcing your thesis statement and having several representatives from these discursive groups cited in text. So what this is talking about here is in-text citations. So today we will spend time reviewing, drafting, and starting peer review. Now, keeping that in mind, it's very important to if you have any direct quotes from your sources, making sure that you have in-text citations. So you have provided representatives to speak for each of your major players or your major groups that you are choosing. So what this is about is choosing the 3 major discourse community or groups that best represent different perspectives of your issue. So if we're thinking about climate change, 3 different perspectives, of course, might be environmentalists, another group might be oil companies, and another group might be like the EPA and that kind of thing. So just as an example, so what you want to think about is, of course, having those 3 major players, and of course, thinking and considering their pathos, logos, and ethos, right? So what do they care about and why? What are they often claiming and why? And citing 1 or 2 experts from that group. And you can pull that directly from your sources. So citing in text, we want to think about in-text citations here. So the process of effectively using quotations is called in-text citations, or having a direct quotation and then having an in-text citation, which we talked quite a bit in depth about within the annotated bibliography, so I don't want to go too much into that, but just keeping that in mind, making sure that you have a works cited page and also an in-text citation. So you will have a works cited page. So using quotes well can make your essay or research paper clear and interesting to read, and can clarify your ideas to strongly support your argument. So this is an example, and this is actually called a quotation sandwich. Now, you might be finding that you are naturally including these quotation sandwiches, especially for the mapping essay, and the reason for that is because you're building a case by case basis here. So like I said, you're having 3 different body paragraphs, and those 3 different body paragraphs are going to represent the 3 different groups that you choose to represent your different sides of your source. So keeping that in mind, so here's an example here. So David Goodall is an Australian man who ended his life by assisted suicide. However, he did not have terminal illness, but rather suffered the loss of independence and autonomy at age 104. So then the student does dive into like the example Regardless, Goodall shared similar values to those with terminal illnesses that I've discovered through research. In an interview conducted shortly before his death, he stated people should have the right to choose assisted suicide. One who wants to be free to choose his death when death is at the appropriate time. Goodall is saying that people want the freedom of choice to hasten death when they're ready for it. Many with terminal illnesses feel more comfortable when they know they have some control over their death. So that is very much building evidence with that example in mind. And that one is about assisted suicide. This is another one about gender identity disorder. So I have quite a few examples within this lesson. I don't want to read the entire thing, but I do want to highlight that they pretty much go into the example of a person named Kelly Winters, and they talk about gender identity disorder. And then they use a direct quote, and then they sort of summarize the quote, and then down here they talk about some of the biggest arguments I see coming from the transgender side is that they should be allowed free or better access to healthcare for transitioning and counseling, that they should be allowed to play on the sports team of their gender or use the bathroom that corresponds with their gender, that they shouldn't be discriminated against, and that they shouldn't be labeled as a mental illness. So what they're very much doing is building supporting body paragraphs, or their quotation sandwiches within these body paragraphs. Now this one includes an example of an in-text citation. So this one is actually about religion, and they use a direct quotation down here. So just as an example of that, like I said, I have quite a few examples within this lesson. I don't want to read them all just because it will take some time, and I feel like we have so much already to talk about. But the example I really like is actually this one. And this one is about SpaceX and the different benefits of space exploration. And they quote Elon Musk from the New York Times, and they have a direct quotation here. Now, one thing to note is that they do actually need an in-text citation right here. But that's more than pretty simple to include. But one thing I do like about this example is that the student here does a great job of building up their case here. So what they do is they start talking about Elon Musk, how he's an expert about space exploration and about the advancement of AI. And then they also go into like how he has used SpaceX as a way for space exploration and also developing AI. So it's very interesting. But anyway, keeping that in mind, we need to have a works cited page. So what is a works cited page? It belongs at the end of your essay. It's similar to a bibliography, but only includes sources that you quote directly within your text. You do not need annotations for a works cited page, okay? So a works cited page pretty much looks like this. And all it is a simple list of the citations of your resources. So if you have a quotation from a source, you will need to cite that source on this page. So if you click on this link here, it will take you to the Purdue OWL page. Like I said, Purdue OWL. So this will take you to the page on Purdue OWL. It will talk about how to format and include a works cited page. So that will also be very helpful, but keep in mind that the Little Seagull Handbook also has pages on how to include a works cited page, so that is there for you as well. So anyway, what we want to think about next is the support. So you will be describing the group by noting their values and stake in the conversation. So then you will cite one representative for that group at least. So what that means is having direct quotations to support each of your discourse communities or each of your different groups. Then you will tell the reader your own position on the issue, and that will be within the fourth body paragraph. So this is taken directly right from the mapping essay guidelines. So thinking about the support body paragraphs, once you have summarized 3 different positions, highlight points of comparison and contrast. How are these major players different from one another? How are they similar? Secondly, we will want to know what your own take on the position is and why you have taken that position. You will be able to voice your own opinion about the issue here. You are free to align with any side as long as you choose to justify it or support it. So then we want to think about what Graff and Bergenstein have talked about this. Students should think of argument as one that responds to and provokes other arguments, or responding to what people are saying. So imagining the author is sitting in a crowded coffee shop talking to others making claims that he or she may be engaged with. So then thinking about the support paragraphs, once you have listened to others, you will need to tell us what you think. So be sure to explain the following. At whose table will these players sit? In other words, which of these will agree with each other and which will disagree? On what grounds will they agree or disagree? So which side do you belong on? What do you think? Why do you belong at this table, and why do you feel this way? So this will be helpful in terms of the invention for the body paragraphs. So if you align with a certain side, what parts of their argument were persuasive to you and why? So if you disagree with a certain side, what parts of their argument failed to persuade you and why? So now that you're coming up with your own argument, what are your own thoughts on the issue? What claims do you anticipate making in the final project for English 1530? So these are some more sample supportive paragraphs here. This one is about AI, which is actually the other part of that example. This one is more support body paragraphs from the one about religion. So now I really want to talk about peer review. So steps for peer review, I will show you all what I do expect for peer review for this semester, or I'm sorry, for this paper, I should say. So the first thing that we're going to do is navigate to our Blackboard page under the Discussion Boards tab, and click on the Discussion Boards tab, open the Mapping Essay Peer Review Forum, and make sure to create a new thread with your Google document link to your mapping essay draft. So then once you are able to do that, steps for peer review is to locate another rough draft that has been posted and open the link to the following rubric. So this will take you to the mapping essay rubric, and this will be provided as a sort of guideline on evaluating your peer review partner's paper. So the most important parts here is, of course, evaluating their introduction, evaluating their thesis statement, their reasons and subpoints, their supporting ideas, and of course side 1, side 2, and side 3, that will represent the 3 different body paragraphs like I said, and then their 4th body paragraph will be taking a position of their own and evaluating those, and also sort of looking at their citations and their MLA format, and of course their conclusion, their grammar, style, and punctuation. So those are the guidelines for peer review. So based upon the rubric's criteria, how would you evaluate their rough draft? Take a closer look at the thesis statement, the organization, and the supporting evidence, as well as the assignment guidelines. And then to create comments within Google Documents on your peer review partner's paper. Or if you need to, you can post directly to the discussion board as well, but it's probably a little bit more helpful. I would encourage you to go ahead and make comments right directly on the Google document. So these videos here is a review of how to make comments and also how to enable permissions for Google Documents if you need those. They're only about a minute long, but it will show you how to make comments, is to highlight the text and then click that little icon there to make a comment on a Google document. So if you need a review of that stuff, it is there for you. oops, there we go. So anyway, the other part I want to think about today is the midway reflection. And this will be a required part of your final portfolio. So once you're done with peer review, once you're done with your rough draft, and you're done with your final draft, this will be something to work on as well, which is the midway reflection. So a reflection letter tends to be about a page long, maybe about a paragraph. So these are the questions to guide your midway reflection. So how do you feel about the results of your mapping essay? What will you do differently for the next essay? How did you feel about the assignment and what we have done so far in the course overall? So the guidelines for that is to start a new Google document, title it Midway Reflection, and turn on sharing permissions, set it to public, and share it to my email. Anyway, that is pretty much it for today. I think that will keep you all pretty busy for the weekend for our course. But anyway, I do want to show you where you can find peer review. So what I'm talking about here is going under the discussion boards tab and then going into the mapping essay peer review. And then from there, you'll be able to create a new thread and post the link. And as far as subject goes, you can just put in your last name and then, so for my case, it would be Krishna mapping essay rough draft. And then you can post the link directly to your Google document page. And then hit the submit button. So then from there, once you have done that, you'll be able to go through the threads once they're posted and locate another rough draft and do peer review that way. And hopefully 4 or 5 days will be enough for peer review this time. I did try to give a little bit more time, but there's only so much time I can give because we only have so much time left. So hopefully that is understandable. Anyway, I think that is, oh, there was one other thing I wanted to talk about, which is the mapping essay guidelines. I don't think I talked about it within our last video. I did update these a little bit, so I at least do want to show you all the parts that I have updated here. So the thing to keep in mind is that the paper should be between 4 and 7 pages. Double space times New Roman font, that's nothing new. But keep in mind that the rough draft is due on Thursday, April 8th, and that is for peer review. And that the final draft is due on Tuesday, April 13th by midnight. And you can also find the link to the sample mapping essay right in our guidelines. I did update that. So if you need an example of what a successful mapping essay has looked like from a past 1530 course, I definitely recommend taking a look at this example. This one does a really nice job with the introduction. They have some background information here. They talk about the issue. They have their thesis statement down here. And then their first body paragraph talks about like the viewpoints of the government. And then another viewpoint about a gaming association. And then the viewpoint about the developers. So they do a really nice job with that. And they have some really nice direct quotations here as well. Some very nice helpful quotation sandwiches. And then finally, they sort of evaluate their own viewpoints. And then finally, they include how they arrive at their own thesis statement right here. So that's what I mean by that fourth body paragraph. And then they talk about what sides they agree with, what sides they don't agree with. So like I said, I definitely highly recommend taking some time to look at this example because the student did an excellent job overall with this. I'm pretty sure this paper got a full had a full grade. I'm pretty sure they got an A on this. So yeah, anyway, I think that's all I had to show you all. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. I have some appointments left for Friday, but I think I have about maybe 5 appointments left for Friday. So if you need one, please be sure to let me know as soon as possible. If you need an appointment next Monday evening, I would be more than willing to accommodate with that. But otherwise, I hope you all have a great weekend. If you have any questions about peer review, you can, of course, always email me as well. Thank you all and have a great day. Bye, everybody.